Lawson, Bill, Irvin, Gordon, Earnhardt, Smith, Johnson, Jr.
Real Country 550 and 92.9 WAME Statesville. Real Country.
Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm.
If you don't know our host, David Hamm, he's a 25-year NASCAR veteran, engine builder, and jackman.
Live every Monday evening, we have a new guest
From the racing world with their stories, their paths,
Their
racing roots.
sponsored by Jersey Cape Yachts.
Now here's our host, David Hamm.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm right here on 550 and 92.9 WAME. Hope everybody had a wonderful day. The weather was pretty nice here in Statesville, just a touch on the cloudy side, but that's okay. We're getting ready to talk some racing. We got our special guest this evening, Billy Wilburn, one of NASCAR's greatest, right here sitting in front of me.
That's a lot.
We're honored to have you in the studio with us.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
What if I would have said Phil Cavali?
Well, you'd be right there. He's
I'm
great.
just kidding. Yes, we got Phil. We got Phil over here as well. Let me get Phil turned on here. Here you go, Phil. Hey, how was your day there, Phil?
Fantastic.
Good to see
Not
you.
bad at all. The weather was fantastic in the area, so it's supposed to be nice all week.
Yeah.
Getting up near the 90-degree mark on Friday, I guess.
Did you go to any racetracks this weekend?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, good for you. Did you, Billy?
No, I did not. I stayed, worked.
So I have a question. This is very serious. Do you go by Bill or Billy now?
Doesn't matter.
Because I always knew him as Billy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Billy's
So,
fine.
Billy.
Yeah.
Okay.
My grandmother's the only one that didn't like Billy.
Oh, is that right?
No, she wanted to be Bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said William or Jack or George or something
I
like
knew
that.
I was in trouble if they used William.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was not good when they called me William.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very good, man. It's so good to see you. I don't know. I was trying to add up the years that it's been because I know it's been actually years.
Yes.
Because I don't know if I saw you the whole time I was at Roush Yates, and I was there 16 years.
Yes.
So,
Like I said before we went on the air, it's easy for me to think it's 2 weeks and it's been 15 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know exactly. So you're originally from Winston-Salem? Is that
Yeah,
right?
Kernersville.
Okay.
Kernersville's my hometown. I was wasn't exactly born there, but raised there. Was only, I was born in Tempe, Arizona. But 2 weeks later, we were in Winston-Salem or Kernersville and been there ever since.
Okay.
So I really don't know anywhere but Kernersville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a strange thing. 2 weeks after you were born, you moved.
Yeah.
Well,
Got
at
too
least they
hot.
waited till after he was born.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
And he's been in a hurry in life ever since, right?
Oh, yeah. Haven't slowed down. It's good. I
always-
think you live longer if you don't slow down.
Absolutely.
you're the jet set, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Well, we used to not have jets. It was just a lot of station wagons.
oh,
Back in the early days, we drove to just about everywhere.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're listening to Racing Roots with Hamm, and on this show we talk about our guests. Each week we have new guests. We talk about their story, their path, and their racing roots, which is exactly what we're going to talk to Billy Wilburn about. Is his story, and in that story we're going to have other stories that you probably know a few stories in your 36 years now in NASCAR.
Yeah, that's
And
right. Yep. 36.
Well, most of those with Rusty Wallace. You'd say, or-
There was a good many of them that were with Rusty. I had several. The most is with Rusty. I think I was there 15 years at Penske. But I spent a couple years with Rusty when he first started at Cliff Stewart Racing, when he first came on the scene with the Gatorade team. Actually, Spectrum Furniture and then Gatorade. Let's see what else. Then Aluguard, which actually went on with him to Blue Max when he left Cliff.
okay.
So that was my first round with Rusty, and then when he ended up with Penske, I ended up there for almost 15 years.
Okay.
So that was quite a.
Oh, those years.
Oh, they were good. Yeah, a lot of wins, a lot of fun. Way different racing then than now.
Sure. Yes, it definitely was.
No doubt.
It's funny how in NASCAR, that's kind of the way it works. It's a full circle. You work with someone, and you better not burn bridges because you most likely you're going to end up working around them, with them, or
Yep.
at somehow at
Right.
some point.
Yeah, I've actually worked at Hendrick's twice, and I'm kind of sort of with Hendrick now through Junior. Rick's partner with him, but I've been lucky and worked for some really good owners. Rick,
Yeah,
Roger, you know.
Yep. Penske's
Petty.
top
Worked
of
for
the
Richard Petty twice.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I was with him 3 years and then came back and was Kyle's crew chief for a couple years there. Actually spent 3 years there.
Yeah.
So.
That's something I didn't realize you were Kyle's crew chief at some point too.
Yeah.
I bet that was a challenge.
It was it was fun.
Yeah,
Dave
sure.
laughs because he worked with
It was
him.
a lot of fun, yeah.
So I didn't hear one of those great team owners. I didn't hear Junior's name in there, but
Junior's in there.
yeah, I got you.
That's
I
correct.
tell everybody it's probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever had is the last 6 or 7 years I've spent at Junior's.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
You seem pretty happy, and you know I had Danny Earnhardt in here a couple weeks ago,
Yep.
and he seemed pretty happy too.
Yeah.
So it must
I don't
be-
think there's if you're there long you're not happy, there's something wrong. Because
Okay.
it's a really good place to work. And LW and Kelly and Junior and you know Ryan Pemberton, they all it's a pretty good place to work. They good atmosphere, good everything. I can't say
Well,
anything negative.
You got quality people that do their job and everything flows.
Yeah.
That's all. If
That's
everybody
correct.
pitches in and everybody does their job, it kind of covers everybody's back just a little.
Yeah.
It all flows.
Yeah, it's good.
And some old school racers.
Yes.
I mean,
Oh.
Yeah.
Ryan Pemberton.
We were talking a couple of those hidden
Billy
gems.
Wilburn.
Like,
Yeah.
why does that shine a little bit more? Oh, we got some guys behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some good people there and good ownership and a lot of good sponsors
Yeah.
and good drivers, you know. And then we brought through some drivers that have went on and done some good things, you know, William Byron Chase
Yeah.
and Tyler Reddick. I mean, it's been a good stop in the road for those guys.
Yeah.
So what's your position there now?
Car chief on the 7. It's a little different now with the different travel aspect with the pandemic. Kind of put us in a little bit of a new place, but
Oh,
still
there's
the
a good guy. He's a
Yeah.
good-hearted. He's a good family man and everything.
Yeah.
His wife's a sweetheart.
yeah, getting ready to have another baby
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
next week.
Great.
Charlotte week supposed to have another baby.
I wonder what they did during COVID.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. They're going to be a
Phil.
lot of that. Next year's going to be a boom, and well, they call it, you know, the baby boom, and after World War II, it'll be the
Sure, right.
the COVID boom, I guess.
Yeah,
I hesitate to say that word because you know might get banned on some stations. Anyway, on YouTube or Facebook, we talk about it in the morning on the radio, and we're on Facebook Live, and sometimes we're like, oh no, we shouldn't say that.
Yeah, they'll name the kid Calvin or
Yes.
Covina.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go. All right, so now you're the car chief on the 7 car down at Junior Motorsports, and y'all had a big yard sale this weekend, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
attend that?
I didn't participate, but I heard it went well. I didn't have to work Saturday, and so I didn't. I'm probably a lucky one. I didn't have anything to really offer for the yard sale, but I heard it went well.
Okay.
It was well received.
Well, good. The station owner Billy Buck here sent me that information in case I had time to go down there, but I was pretty busy this weekend.
Right.
All right. So, what is your how long have you been at Junior Motorsports?
Almost 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working on my 7th season. Now that I was there. I've been there that long. I was there. I was with Chase 2 years prior, down at Hendricks in the R&D department,
All right.
and with Lance McGrew and Jim Long and Pete Wright.
Wow, Jim Long's still around?
Yeah, Jim's
mean, in
retired
racing?
from Hendricks anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So
Pete's still over there? Or
Dude.
Pete retired, right?
Pete retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, last December was his last year.
All right, so let's back up. Let's back up to your. We're talking about your roots here, and then we'll get into what you got going on nowadays. So you were from Winston-Salem, and what got your interest? Well, you were a race fan as a kid.
Richard Petty,
There you go.
100%. Mm-hmm. And my dad actually was friends with Richard Childress's father-in-law. He Furman Reed was I guess one of our ends on knowing people in racing, and we ended up over at Gumtree Road when Richard was over there. Just started the deal with Earnhardt, or actually back up to the Piedmont days, and Piedmont.
Terry Labonte.
No, it was Ricky Rudd, I think.
Okay.
But Dale Earnhardt came along with the Wrangler deal, and I think that's what kicked Richard in high gear.
Okay.
And we would go over to the shop and get to hang out, and we did the same down at Richard's. We go. They had the gift shop open in the trophy room, and got to know a few of those guys, and being a big fan of it, I said, "This is what I want to. This is what I want to do." Sure. And a friend of mine I went to school with was sponsoring Kurt Bryant in the Daytona Dash Series. It used to be International Sedan, and Kurt Bryant was Darrell Bryant's son, and Darrell Bryant was the crew chief at Stewart Racing, Cliff Stewart, with Spectrum, and Joe Milliken drove, and Jeff Bodine drove. So anyway, long story short, before I actually got started, we would go to the races and help them clean wheels and drag stuff to the pits and, do this, that, and whatever. And so we kind of the guy that was in the way. We'd sneak in, do whatever we could do to get in the gate.
Right.
And that was in 81, 82, 83. Heck, we weren't even really old enough to be in there. And so 84 is when I actually was able to, 83, end of 83 and 84 is when I actually started getting paid to work on cars and go to the track.
Okay.
That's kind of where it all started.
Yeah. And back in those days, it was you saw a lot of people doing that, just either coming in and helping out young kids.
There would be guys. I mean, until the mid '90s, Dave Marcus would pull guys off the fence on the outside of the garage and say, "Hey, can you carry 200 pounds? Come in here. You're a gas man."
We went to Darlington one time, and Bobby Waywack. We ended up helping him. He didn't have any help, and a lot of people don't remember Bobby. Yeah. But you remember a guy named Richmond Gage?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was with Petty's.
Okay. Yeah.
And I actually made friends with him, and he got us in the pits a few times at different places, and it was tough, but it wasn't near as tough as it is now to get in the pits. But
sure.
Richmond Gage snuck me in several times, and lo and behold, next thing I know, I got an opportunity to go work for Richard Petty.
Oh, and that was probably your dream when you got into NASCAR.
Yeah. Meeting people, through people like him. After I'd worked at Stewart's, I ended up getting a full-time job at Petty's.
Yep. So was that your first paying job?
My first paying job was at Cliff Stewart's.
Okay. Gotcha.
But my first full-time traveling, doing any work, as far as pit crew and working, actually holding a position, was at Petty's. Yeah.
And a full schedule.
What year was that?
Yes. That was in 85.
Oh, okay.
85. 84 was basically with Rusty when he was Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So in 85, you were there, and then how long did you stay there?
3 years.
3 years.
Yep.
Because I listened to. Go ahead.
3 years, 85, 6, and 7, and then I ended up at Hendricks with Jeff Hamm and Darrell Waltrip.
Okay. That's what I was going to mention. I listened to the
88 or 87?
We played the 1990 Budweiser 500 from this past Saturday, from Dover, and they interviewed you on the radio as a crew chief, I believe. That's what it said. Really? Yeah, they said crew chief.
And then you went to Rusty in 89?
No. 89 was Darrell Waltrip, won the Daytona 500.
Okay.
90, I left toward the end of 90 to go to Penske.
Okay.
They were just getting started.
Because that's where I met you, I think was at Fall Martinsville at 90.
Yep.
You were with Rusty, and I was taking pictures.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so you were at Rusty's, and I know you were there in 95, 96.
Yep.
Because we had some, in 96 is when we had David Evans come to work for us, and Ronnie Phillips.
Yep.
And some of the guys, old Penske guys.
Ronnie Phillips was one of the guys I worked with at Cliff Stewart's. And he was what was the newspaper guy? Benny Phillips.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think he was
the
his
writer.
Yeah. Benny Phillips, I think this was his nephew.
Big tall guy.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
I think so, yeah. And that's how I'm 99% sure. I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty certain. I never will forget Ronnie Phillips' first race was Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I heard he's still in, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what he's doing, but I hadn't seen Ronnie in many, many years.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So you come over and did a little bit of pit. I guess you were like an advisor towards our pit crew to try to help us get to speed things up a little bit. Is kind of what I was told. I
mean, fast forward is quick, isn't it?
It was just a 96 or so.
Okay.
90, yeah, it's Sabco.
Yeah.
It was the pit crew authority.
Yeah,
I
mean,
know about that.
Yeah, well, and it was a David Evans thing too. So I ended up doing some machine work for your sprint car, which we'll talk about that a little bit here shortly. But I think you did help our pit crew. We learned some things, of course. I learned a few things too, and mostly I think helped our tire changers.
Well, I'll tell you one thing:
a while.
the way they do it now versus the way we did it then,
sure,
it's amazing.
As far as
they have dissected a pit stop down to
nothing. Yeah, there's no clearance no more.
Yeah, I don't want to say they're light years faster, but boy, they're very efficient because they're doing it with less people.
Yeah.
They're doing it with less people, and man, some of them guys are really good.
Well, and back in the day, we would have to, we would do things like lay the tires down and then just run around. And you had a guy changing the left side, taking the left side off, and then a right rear guy, and that's what he did.
Yeah. Do you feel that now? I mean, back then you could have changed tires for 5 to 10 years. Now there's a changeover. I mean, it's a tight competition.
Well, I think I don't know. If I had to go through the, I call it mechanisms, the way they're so mechanical, the way they do things, and they really practice, and they're so regimented in every little step that they do. I mean, heck, they take their tire off and roll it to the wall. There's a lot of times I was hoping my tire didn't roll out in the infield.
Yeah.
Well,
I know they roll it and it stops right there at the corner. I know, I've seen. Yeah, it's amazing.
But those guys too. Nothing against the process they have now, but a lot of them guys, that's all they do.
Right.
Oh, I know.
When we did it, yourself included, I mean,
you guys worked out. You worked in the shops all week long, and you worked putting the car on the hauler, and you worked setting it up, going through tech, tuning it up, practice.
That's right.
And then I know I see these guys come in, and these guys are ex-NFL players, they're ex-college athletes. And they walk around on race day. They work out all week long, and they're beefed up and everything.
Yeah.
But their specialties, all right. They only know that hub.
Yeah, right. I always used to say if the specialty guy was probably not a bad thing, but if before the damaged vehicle policies and stuff they have in place now, I mean, you had to be able to fix the car. You had to be able to do things to continue to race and try to, in some instances, still be able to win.
Right.
Not just finish.
So talking about those days, explain to our listeners what your day would be like, let's say, or your week. You would work on a car, and then you go do pit practice after work at 3 o'clock, whatever. Pit
practice, back in those days was we'd roll out behind the shop and somebody drive the car, and we'd run through 3 or 4 stops. Yeah. We didn't have a play call like they do now. I mean, if they're going to put
coach there,
if they're going to put 2 rounds in the left rear and track bar up and put some tape on the grill, they might call Daytona 4. Who knows what the code number is, but the code call is. But they're working on. They got a play for everything, which is good, and they're doing more with less. I will give them that. But it's way different than it used to be.
Well, and I was thinking about how, I would be in there building an engine, and I'd have to find a good stopping point because I knew pit practice was coming up at 3 o'clock.
Right.
And we were going to go do probably 10 stops. It just depends,
Right.
And so I go out there, do the stops, and then just go back in and go right back to work.
That's exactly right. We'd get up in the morning and go to the track. Back in the day, you'd do your race prep, get the car ready, and when you're done with that, you go set your stuff up in the pits, glue your wheels.
Yeah.
I mean, it was... you're involved in all aspects of it,
Yep. And now they're going to have, I guess, the one lug nut in the. So it's going to be, it's going to change things a little too.
Right.
It's going to make it even quicker, I guess.
I will say this: there was one thing in my life that I didn't get to do that I kind of wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted with Roger owning the Indy cars. I really wanted to go to Indy and change tires on an Indy car.
Did you ask him?
Well, it never worked out. I mean, we were always racing the 600.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that as an opportunity.
It's got a supersonic jet, I'm sure.
He's got a jet.
I was just thinking, Phil, I sent you an updated list of who's going to be on the show, but I've left off Madison Conrad, who is going to be up in Indy, and she's going to be on the female pit crew deal that's going on, and she's going to be in here. but I got to remember what the date was. I told her I'll find it. I'll figure it out. But so anyway, that just popped in my head. I'm like, wait a minute. Anyway, so yeah. All right. So then you were at Rusty's team and you were sprint car racing. Were you racing hard at I know you were just kind of getting started at that point.
No, the racing thing started at Darrell Waltrip's at Hendricks. We were in the micro sprints. Eddie Dickerson, of all people. We got involved in that stuff, and, you know, kind of like everything I've ever done, I kind of carried it on to the next level.
Sure.
We went from micros to mini sprints, and truthfully, I didn't see it being a big difference in expenditure to get a sprint car.
Okay.
So I had no idea what in the world I was getting ready to do, but I went ahead and got me a sprint car and raced for about 5 years, and that was probably some of the most fun I've ever had.
So you went from Millbridge to sprint car racing.
Yeah, I went from what you call Millbridge now. Actually, I raced at Millbridge 30-plus years ago in a go-kart.
Yeah.
Wow.
David's raced there too.
Yeah, 20-something years ago.
Yeah, and I was – one night we were racing, and a couple boys in front of me kind of got hung up on top of each other, and they were punching and fighting and carrying on, and I said, I don't think this is for me. So I went and sold my go-karts and moved on to something else.
Yeah. All right.
That was the end of that.
Something with some more structure,
Yeah,
more
exactly.
rules and things.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
because everybody knows I turn over. I will turn over. And in a go-kart, that probably wouldn't be good.
no, not at all.
Yeah,
Yes.
So
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and it'll be a couple minutes, and we'll be right back with Billy Wilburn right here on Racing Roots with Hamm.
Ryan Scott here at Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville. Tell us what's going on now.
What is going on at Randy Marion Chevrolet? How about deals? Deals. 2017 Chevrolet Cruze starting at $79.88. Yes, I said that slow, so you got it. $79.88. You will not beat that deal. We've got all colors, LTs, LSs. Come check them out today. And I'll tell you what, you know Randy Marion sells a lot of cars, but I bet there's one thing you didn't know about Randy Marion. He wants to buy your car. We're looking for quality pre-owned inventory. So come see us today at Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville. You'll leave here with cash in your pocket. Come see us today.
You know, here in the sun.
Real good.
Randy's Barbecue.
Hey, Jason Drum from Bell Landscape Supply. What's going on right now?
There's a lot of great looking plants. I mean, we brought in at least 3 truckloads in the past week, and stuff is blooming beautiful. But as of right now, I mean, it's a great time to get out there and plant. Plants really do help to relieve stress. I mean, just taking a walk through your garden, 10, 15 minutes at a time can do wonders for you.
Give us your opening hours.
Monday through Friday, 8 until 5, and we're open Saturdays now, 8 until 1. We do deliveries, as you mentioned. Deliveries fill up quickly this time of year. If you can give us about a 2-day notice, that'll ensure that you can get the products you're looking for delivered right to your house. So you don't even have to come in. We can take care of it over the phone.
And that's Bell Landscape Supply. How do we find you?
Well, we're located at 2410 Northside Drive. That is the famous frontage road here in Statesville that runs along I-40 in between Highway 64, 90, and 115. Look on our website. It's belllandscapesupply.com. Our Facebook page is constantly updated thanks to Bethany there. You'll see all kinds of new products and tips for your lawn. And if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, give us a call. It's 704-253-7010. That's 704-253-7010.
All right, we're back on Racing Roots with Hamm right here on 550 AM and 92.9 FM. And you can also go on to DHammiam on YouTube and tune in there and see us live here in the Randy Marion studio and enjoying our conversation here with Billy Wilburn, longtime NASCAR. Gosh, you've been in all kinds of different positions in NASCAR, right?
yeah, I've swept the floors.
Yeah.
And I've done a little bit of everything. Been shop foreman, crew chief, car chief, tire specialist, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Done a little bit of all of it.
And your list of drivers is pretty extensive. Rusty Wallace, Dale Jarrett, Kyle Petty, Kenny Wallace, John Andretti. Bobby Labonte, to name a few.
Yep, Dale Jarrett.
And all the different series is, yes.
Yep.
But that's one thing I didn't realize you worked at Robert Yates Racing.
Yeah, I was
as well.
there for about 8 months.
Okay.
Yep.
Now that it pops in my head, now, what year was that?
That was a 2005.
Okay. I started there in 2003.
Yep, 2000.
End of 2003.
Yep, 2005. I'm pretty sure it was. Crew chief there for about 8 months, I think. 6, 7, 8 months. It was my last race with Dale was right before they won Talladega. They put Todd back on there with him.
Okay.
That was a little bit of shuffling going on.
Right.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
It was all good.
Which happens a lot in NASCAR, of course.
It does. Yep.
Hence is why you've worked for many different places. All right, so go through the rest of your career, starting in the mid-'90s.
Well, we went a long time there with Rusty, and ended up I crew chiefed a couple years for Rusty, and that was probably one of the better opportunities in my life. Two good years, big learning years.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And then Roger, was involved with the Cranifus Haas team, bought that, and then he ended up with the 77 team. With I'm trying to Doug Bobble and those guys with the Jasper deal, and brought Brendan in. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I kind of moved around. I was in the mix there, was as a shop foreman with 77 for a little bit, and then actually left there and went to work for Brendan for about a half season.
Okay.
In Vegas. And
which is where he was from, I guess. Or?
Yeah, he was from Las Vegas. He came to North Carolina after I guess it was 2004. I think it was when he ran the Kodak car.
Yeah.
For the 77.
Yeah.
I remember in '97 when we beat y'all out of the pits. I had to say that.
The one time.
I know. I've got a video of that. I know. I'm like, this one time.
God.
Sorry.
Well, to get that off your chest.
Well, here's the deal. Here's my thought on it, though. It's like you come over to Savco in '96 and you taught us a few things. Or maybe it was '97.
Yep.
And then we did some switching around or whatever. And I ended up over on Nemechek's crew for the rest of the year. And then we ended up beating y'all out of the pit. So it's kind of like, thanks,
he
Billy.
just wants you to know it worked. Your pep talk. You paid attention. David applied it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what it is.
I know one thing that like I said before, I'm amazed at how tight it is on pit road anymore.
Oh, I know. I mean, as a photographer, I used to be able to cover 3 pits during one pit stop. The car would come in and I'd shoot him, bang, 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 and then I'd run to the next one and jump in there and get a shot, and I could just get to the third one as they were leaving. Now, pick one car.
Yeah.
13 seconds. It's in, and before I could run to the next one, they're gone.
Yeah. And they come down pit road so close, and I mean it's amazing.
I mean, even like you said, they choreograph it so those jackmen now, they don't look back. They know they're that far away. They know they're 2.5 inches away, but they don't know right where they're planting their feet and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I guess I need to go to a race so I can see what it's like now, because I can see that it's been a long time since I've actually gone in the pits.
It's definitely something happening, and it's pretty amazing.
Are you at the track now?
I go occasionally.
Yeah.
I don't go near as much. The pandemic kind of changed our whole routine, with no practice. With no practice, and all you do is tech, no qualifying, none of that stuff. There's really
crew chief and car chief.
And the roster, they've tightened it down on the number of people. Yeah. They've cut it out. They've cut down on the number of guys that go. And
has that changed the dynamic of the guys that just their specialty to do just the pit crew work?
Yeah, well,
if they had to pick up more, there's not a lot of stuff. Maybe help push through tech, right, or something.
Yeah, they when they get there, they've got their morning pretty mapped out, setting up pit box, getting the tires and all the stuff out for the day, for the race. We're seeing a little something that I think's coming in the future at Mid Ohio. We did it last year at Road America, where we didn't have cup crews. We did it ourselves. And we had a time limit, like 45 seconds. Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to see more of that in the future. Can't guarantee that, but I see that coming.
Okay. So who was your biggest influence to get you into NASCAR?
Probably just loving cars. When I was in high school, I went to automotive tech. I spent more time worrying about cars and working on cars than I did my schoolwork, probably. I don't know that there was a big influence in other than I just really enjoyed the racing.
Wasn't like a family member raced or anything,
No.
or your dad took you to the races or something. Nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering.
The only family member was Philip Smith and Burt Myers and Jason Myers.
Okay, yeah.
They both have been affiliated with Philip over the years. Now, Philip drove for years for Bud and Bud Hutchins and Bobby Hutchins.
Yeah.
That Bowman Gray.
Yeah.
So there was a time before I got involved in any type of racing, really, that we went to Bowman Gray and watched Philip race. And I guess he's my cousin. He's a distant cousin to my family. So that's truthfully the only family member that's ever been involved in racing.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And you did a little bit. I mean, you dabbled with it, I guess you could say, right in a truck, possibly.
I tried to drive a truck a couple races. Earl Barbin, one of the team members, he had done a deal with that Red Dog truck years ago. And Rick Johnson drove it. Kenny Wallace drove it. And I was racing sprint cars at the time, and he says, let's put together a truck and try it out. So we went to Vegas, and Phoenix and Vegas. I didn't make the race. I missed it barely at Phoenix. But we had 76 trucks try to qualify. I ran the last chance race at Vegas, and I don't think they they didn't have a last chance at Phoenix. It was just straight up qualifying.
Yeah, that's a lot. That would be really tough.
The next year, if we'd have just showed up, we'd have made every race because they didn't have enough trucks.
Right. Yeah.
Timing was off a little bit on that one.
Yeah, I'd say.
Hey, just for the record, Bowman Gray, season opening June 5th. The modifieds are going to be running, and I'll be there. Bowman Gray.
I'll be in Mid-Ohio for that one.
Okay.
You let me know who wins.
I will.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So I had a comment from Billy Race.
Yeah.
And he said, make sure you tell him that the rhino is way tougher than the hippo.
Billy Race knows better. The hippo will beat the rhino every time. Come on, Billy, you know that.
Yeah, he said he'll know exactly what I told you. He'll know exactly. Told you to say that.
Yeah, Billy Race. He was with us at Petty's with Kyle for several years. Haven't seen him in probably a year or two, but Billy's a good guy.
Yeah,
man.
He's been on the show, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has. He was here. I don't know. It's been a couple months ago.
Yeah.
2 or 3 months ago.
Remember,
They all
Billy,
run together.
The hippo always wins.
The hippo always wins.
Yeah.
And that's the truth to
A lot
be
of people
spoken.
don't know this. Hippopotamuses are one of the most violent.
Yeah, they'll kill you.
Yeah, they kill more people than most
they
anything.
sure do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that.
They're hungry. Hungry hippo.
I don't want to mess
Very
with them.
territorial.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
They live on that wild terrain, so they know how to survive.
Well, they stay underwater too.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
They even kill alligators and such. But anyway, that's our. Speaking of water, how about that Jersey Cape yachts?
Jersey Cape yachts. You got a yacht, Billy?
No.
We can refurbish and refab it and renew it with Jersey Cape custom made yachts.
I've never owned a boat.
Now's your
This is
time.
not a boat. This
You
is a
deserve it.
yacht. This is a custom made. That's our sponsor, Jersey Cape Yachts. They have custom made yachts.
I'll call them first if I get in the market.
Yes, you will.
You need one of those 66 feet yachts. They do 31 to 66 feet in length, but you got to go to Jersey to get it. But
The
they'll
little
deliver.
devil all the way up to the big Diablo.
Yes, so
And I was told by
Almost a
Janine
Superman.
and Wayne that Diablo means devil.
yeah.
I didn't know that. The little devil, little Diablo,
right.
not the big Diablo.
yeah, I told you that, right?
Did
My
you?
financial
Wayne?
program,
I said it
I'll have
one
to win
morning.
the lottery to do that.
Oh yeah,
That's
of
right.
course. Yeah. And that's probably not the first thing on your list, is it? If you
I
won
try.
a lottery, if you won $1 million.
I play it every day.
Oh, okay.
I'm a cash 5 guy.
Cash 5.
okay.
I
Okay.
hit 4
I don't have
numbers
any
4
luck on
times.
those.
I'm going to win it one day.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to wake up rich.
There you go.
Well, that's okay.
That's not a bad thing to happen, you know.
No, I'd be happy. I'd be very happy. Just to win $100,000 would be great.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm going to win a car tomorrow.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, in the golf tournament, I'm going to hit a hole in one or something. Just letting you know. Just
Hole in
JS,
one
just
and win a
saying.
car. All right.
Probably like that.
Yeah, because
Sounds a little bit like Carl Speckler.
As long as it's in a putt-putt course.
One hand. So
I'm going to try to win the HGTV Dream Home.
Oh yeah, we're
in
working
Naples,
on that
Florida.
too. Yeah. So who's your favorite driver that you ever worked for? Do you think?
I would say my favorite driver is Richard Petty.
Yeah. Okay. So it stayed that way from the time you got in.
And I'm thinking he was your biggest influence too.
Yeah,
most likely.
Richard Petty was always my favorite. I just hate we never won a race with him.
Yeah.
You know, and we were close a few times, finished second several times, but Richard Petty, and on the dirt side, Steve Kinzer.
Yeah. So you've worked with all these different drivers, famous drivers, very winning. What was it like when you really just started out for the first time? Could you contain yourself the first day when you were going to RPs? Richard Petty's
well, I had a.
I mean, what was that day like? I mean,
had
you
a
were
good
so.
catalyst.
I mean, I know by the time you're at this point, you know, going to work for Dale Jr. is no big deal. You see him around a lot, but that boom.
Well, when you're 18 years old, 17 years old, whatever I was then, Dale Inman had a way of straightening you right up.
Mm-hmm. Grab you by the arm,
putting you on the focus, you know.
Yeah.
And
how was that? I mean,
it was good. You know, I still had.
I mean, how did he do that? Was he stern, or was he like he really is? Because we know him as a jokester.
Yeah, he had his way. He just, hey, this is what we're here. This is what we're here for. You know, we're here to work. We're here to race.
Still pretty warming like he is now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Come up and get you by the elbow there.
Man, it probably don't hurt as bad.
He's infamous.
Back in the day, he could put a hurting on your elbow.
That's what I remember about him. The first time I met him was he come up and grab my arm, and he's just squeezing it really tight. I'm like, man, who's this guy? And I don't know who that is.
You love to take your deal and turn it backwards.
I didn't have that.
Oh, that was
he's strong.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest things about me when I got into NASCAR was that I knew the drivers, and I knew them like long before if they even got to know me. You know, when I'm 5 years old, I remember Richard Petty and Kel Yarborough. I was born in '71. But then when I get around them, it's like, man, I felt like you're around royalty in a way.
Yeah. I think way back then you had a chance to be friends with them and actually, you know, have a relationship with those guys. In today's world, the drivers are so remote. I don't think anyone, unless the driver initiates something as far as a friendship, they're really distant and remote compared to back in the day.
I think we talked about it last week, David. The only driver that I've seen in the last 10 years who's went out of his way to at a racetrack to mingle with the public is Brad Keselowski. I've seen him on his golf cart on a Saturday night riding through the campground at Pocono.
Oh yeah.
And
There's
outside
been pictures
the
on
track.
Facebook of that.
He's one of the very few I've ever seen do it, and he does it genuinely. He'll take his wife and kids sometimes and some hero cards to sign them. And
I think, you know, back in the day, I can remember going to a lot of races, and Richard Petty would be in the van with us, Dale and Kenny and Ray, and we drove from Pocono to Michigan to a test one time. And I mean, Pocono to Michigan, that's a pretty long little ride.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all in this big comfort coach van going down the road. Same way with Rusty. We did a lot of that stuff. And
the stories.
Yeah. And then, you know, as you get older and progress, and Rusty gets a plane and this guy gets a jet, and next thing you know, it was nothing for us all to get in Rusty's plane and fly to the race with him and fly back with him.
Right.
You know, he had us with him going and had us coming back. So we spent a lot of time with those guys.
Well, like you said, though, you had a core people of maybe 6 to 8 guys that worked on the car, the pit crew and everything, and Rusty was tight with you guys. Yeah. You guys had a unique relationship with your driver, unlike a lot of – I mean, Rusty was a pretty hip guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, speaking of that, do you have any Rusty stories that you can tell on the radio? And on the
There's probably I don't know. There's some
or any other drivers. I mean, we typically do a Sterling Marlin story is our big thing, you know.
Well, we talked about that. He's got a Sterling Marley story he wants to tell us, but a Rusty would be good too. That's what the guy everybody likes to hear is the old stories. Yeah, something on the road, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I don't know. I'd have to think about the Rusty ones.
Yeah. What about a Sterling or Earnhardt? Even
Sterling was, you know, I know a lot of stories about Sterling, especially from the Kyle Petty days. But the one I'll say, I was driving my sprint car stuff to Arizona one time and stopped for fuel out in the middle of nowhere, I don't know, I was 3 or 4 hours out of Phoenix, I guess. And I go in to pay, and here comes Sterling Marlin running over and say, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm going to Manzanita, race my sprint car." "Are you going to Phoenix?" I said, "Yeah, I'm on my way." He says, "I need a ride. Their truck's broke down, and I got to be some deal at something, whatever time." So I said, "Yeah, hop in." So we rode from wherever it was. I want to say it was right along the New Mexico, Arizona line all the way to Phoenix.
Wow.
So,
yeah,
and we talked about everything there was to talk about. And when I got him wherever he wanted, he jumped out and see you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sterling's a character, man.
He's a good man.
Did that really happen?
Yeah, it did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
Wow.
It's neat. So now that we play these MRN Classic races on our radio station here, 92.9 FM and 550 AM, and then also it's on WAMEradio.com as well as TuneIn app, and so you can listen to them. But listening to these old races, and I've heard Sterling's name come up a lot more than I realized.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I ended up being the jackman for him, 97 to 2000, and he, you know, I was kind of like, I knew Sterling Marlin, but just now listening back, and then he ended up doing really well in the 2000s till he hurt his neck.
Right.
But he's really impressive. Him and Bobby Allison was he would get in, get out of the car, fly to his next race, and get in the car and drive another race.
Yeah.
Fly himself. I mean,
I think, that was another thing I think that drew me to the racing was the personalities.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's so many more of them then than there are now.
Seems that way.
In my opinion.
So much, yes. You hear that a lot.
It's a shadow. They're shadowed now. Before they were big and bold.
Yeah. Well, I think even,
a
lot of guys coming up through the ranks, however they end up in Cup back in the day is a lot different than now. You know, I mean, a lot of those guys had a little bit of history coming through the ranks, and you kind of knew about it.
Yeah.
You know, I like to think of Harry Gant as one of those. You know,
yeah.
And you can list many more. Rusty, for that matter,
Yeah.
he had a following from the SA days.
Sure.
You know,
him and Kowicki and Mark Martin all knew each other well.
Now these kids, you drop them in there, you go, "Oh, what'd you do?" "Well, I was hanging out at the house 6 months ago, and now I'm racing."
Yeah, playing video games.
Yeah. You know.
Well, that's where we don't have that steadfast personality. You know, where there was a lot of heritage with Allisons, Earnhardts.
I think that's one of the things in something modern right now that's happening with Josh Berry. I think that's a big deal for a lot of people that have followed Josh over the years running late models. You know, he probably gets a little more ink than a lot of them because he drives for Junior, but he's been successful.
Yeah, he has.
And now he's had a legitimate handful of races in a good car, and he's producing. And I think there's a lot of other guys out there that can do the same thing that may never get that shot. You know.
Yeah, and he's got Danny Earnhardt as his crew chief.
There
car chief.
He's got good people. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tracy, do we have any questions?
No questions, but Paul does say that Brad did do a good job coming out to the campground.
Yeah.
He made lots of fans that way.
Yeah, I like the way he did his live videos or whatever, or he would do a video and post them on Facebook so that everybody would see, of course.
And so far tonight, we've got a few listeners that are regulars. We've got Brad Downard. We've got Brett Troutman. We've got Jeremy Hamm. We've got Suzette McGuire. And
Dickie
Dennis, Paul Rodriguez. So we've got a few regulars listening.
Yeah, Scott. Wait a minute. Brett Troutman said Ryan Blaney looks like a new Bobby Allison in NASCAR today. And speaking of Dickie Dennis, do you remember the fence climber in 2014 Richmond race? That's Dickie Dennis. He tunes in. So,
well, it's nice.
We need more of that
correctional facility to let him have that radio for an hour. You know,
I was trying to read your look. I was trying to figure out if he cost you a race that day or something. But it's funny looking back now.
Who was leading? Dickie? Do you know who was leading the race when you climbed the fence, Dickie? You know what he did? He climbed all the way up there, and he was so upset because he got to the top, and he didn't have his camera to do a selfie. He left it down there. That's why
he throws his arms up in the air. Yeah. He was wanting to get a selfie with Harvick driving by because he's got a Facebook page called Fear the Four, so he's a big Harvick fan. So maybe if I get Harvick on here someday and Dickie actually might come in and be on the show, but he's up in Virginia, so anyway, working on some stuff.
I heard you talk about that on Juniors when Dale Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Danny Jr. was on here. Yeah.
That's right. I just like to always ask people if they know, if they remember him.
They're like, no. And every time you say who the fence climber, everybody's like, oh, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, because there's been others trying to duplicate it, but there can only be one. So,
You're right. The first one always is the best.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, his name is recognizable with that, like Lee Harvey Oswald is.
Yes.
Not a bad way, but you know what I mean? Recognizable.
Right. Yeah.
Infamous.
Yes. Yeah. And he goes kayaking like every day, so he actually just got in and joined us from.
He's quite the woodsman. Yeah, he's a little late, but he's a good man.
Yeah. So,
Dickie, you need to come to some of the modified races, Dickie.
Oh yeah, for sure. Any all right, so do we covered the stories, any other drivers that any stories that you can tell and from your travels with them and such?
I'm probably not the best. Kyle,
I got you.
Kyle liked to sing.
Yeah,
wasn't nothing for him to break out the guitar and play some music. I think he had some talent there. I just don't know if he ever, he's definitely
a
lot.
I think he could have done it. Yeah.
He's still doing it. It's kind of like a hobby for him.
Yeah.
But
Well, I remember that there was an album put out in the 80s or 70s of a bunch of the drivers singing different songs.
Yeah, Earnhardt even sang a song. But I don't remember what it was, but I've seen it. I've heard it.
Yeah.
Whenever I first met Kyle, though, he gave me his cassette tape, and it had his song, Old King Richard was one of the songs, and I listened to it a lot. And he just asked me, hey, have you ever tried singing? And I'm like, no, I don't think I could do it. I just don't think I have the voice, whatever. He's like, no. He said, when you get in the studio, anybody can do it. So, but I was like, yeah, but I can't sing and play the guitar
Hold
at the
on
same
if you're
time.
going to try now. Hold
Oh,
on.
we're in a studio, right?
I could prove him wrong. I could prove him wrong for sure.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, Dave is pretty good on the harmonica. So.
Well, we did go see Kyle at the symphony.
Yeah.
When he played with the symphony.
Banjo too.
Really?
Yeah, we did went and saw him in Salisbury. He played with the symphony, and then we all went out to dinner afterwards. It was kind of like a Sabco reunion there.
Yeah.
Was there a
Kyle Petty is a very talented person, I think, in a lot of ways.
Oh, he runs that charity ride every year, and I was a photographer in 2002 and went across and saw him orchestrate that whole thing. How nerve-wracking it is to bring like 200 motorcycles into Chicago and make sure the police are there and all this.
Sure.
Yeah. He's quite he is amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of singers, did you ever meet Marty Robbins?
Never met Marty Robbins.
I didn't either.
Met Eddie Van Halen though.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, he came to Phoenix. He came to a couple races when I was working for Kyle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
And I was a big Van Halen fan, so that was a big deal. But I never met Marty Robbins. I wish I could have.
Same here.
Who was the biggest celebrity you ever met at a NASCAR event? I
don't know. Probably Eddie. Eddie might be one of them. Yeah.
So Van Halen or
Gene Simmons. Met Gene Simmons at
Homestead.
Yeah.
I did too. I got a picture with him. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't get to meet him.
2001, I guess.
Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
A couple times.
With Pamela Anderson at Bristol one time. Yeah. I got a photo bomb looking over her shoulder one time. Somebody took a picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, man. You got the picture?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, or it wasn't one of those moments where the guy that didn't get the picture,
Paul Newman. Tom Cruise.
Yep.
Tom Cruise, when I worked at Hendricks, Tom went to Watkins Glen and Wilkesboro when they were shooting Days of Thunder.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
So I met him and Val Kilmer.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Wow. Those are some big names.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite actors.
It's just an introduction. Hey, Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer. Now, Tom was around a lot. I'm not saying we were in conversation with him or hanging out, but he was in and out of our trucks quite a bit during the Days of Thunder deal.
My uncle drove the limo for him during the movie in Charlotte. Anyway,
at Charlotte, I met and had my picture taken with Jeff Gordon.
Really?
Yeah.
So Brett Troutman makes a comment. He says he met Kyle Petty in 2001. It's one of his favorite NASCAR drivers. His mom has a crush on him in the 90s and talks about his pretty hair and how nice he was to him and his mom and dad.
Yep.
Very cool. Hey, Phil, what were you talking about? Jeff Gordon, what did you say? I missed that. I'm sorry.
I was joking around saying, hey, you know who I met at Charlotte and had my picture taken with was Jeff Gordon.
Oh, yeah. What about 1990 maybe? Because that's whenever I started watching him.
No, it was on my birthday. I don't know. We were in Victory Lane joking around, and somebody said it was my birthday, and he's like, "Come on up here, Phil," and we had a picture.
I see. So it was when he started winning in Charlotte. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was probably 2009 or something.
Oh, well, yeah.
Coca-Cola 600, one of his many wins.
Yeah, one of his many. Yeah. So, Tracy, check out what is Jody saying.
I've got it already.
Okay. And I was going to ask you, this is off the whatever, Van Halen or Van Hagar?
Van Halen.
Yeah, same here.
Like them both, but Van Halen for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like Sammy Hagar. He's one of the first concerts I ever saw. Pretty wild guy, amped up.
I went to see him. I've seen him both ways with, David Lee.
Never saw either or. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me neither. All right,
Rusty, probably my favorite group, those 38 Special.
Oh, yeah.
They've been to the track.
Yeah, Rusty was big with them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you ever listen to Real Country?
Oh, yeah. I like country music, yeah.
Now, you listened to us on the way up here. You listened to 92.9.
I turned it on 92.9. I even tried the 550.
WAMEradio.com.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can see how far. So where are you living now? Charlotte?
Mooresville.
I mean, I don't know why I said Charlotte.
Mooresville.
Down in Mooresville. So if you start losing your signal, depending on what vehicle you drive, that kind of deal.
Charlotte's gotten so big, it's pretty much Mooresville now.
You can switch over to 550 and it'll pick up the rest of the way.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but we're going to take a quick break and we will be back here in just about a minute and a half or so.
At Banner Drug, we are proud to say we have been caring for our patients in our community since 1996. Our pharmacy offers a personalized customer service experience you expect from a locally owned store. To help you with your prescriptions, all 4 Banner Drug locations can deliver your medication right to your door. You can call in your prescription refill order, or better yet, use the convenient refill button on our website, www.bannerdrug.com.
School days were the happiest days of your life.
This is Jeff James, Iredell Statesville School Superintendent. Join me this Friday at 8:30 a.m. as we talk about all the things happening within the Iredell Statesville school system. We'll talk about policy, visions, trends in your local school system and explain why and how decisions are made that affect Iredell County school children and families. We might even have a few special guests along the way. So again, join me this Friday at 8:30 a.m. right here on 550 and 92.9 WAME.
Blue Harbor Bank is not your typical bank, right, Doug Hendricks?
It's a great little bank. We're based out of Mooresville. All of our board of directors, our employees, and the vast majority of our customers are all from right here in Iredell County. So it's a great place to be. We have a great time as a team. The team here in Statesville consists of Jennifer Jolly and Tara Summers. They are the primary customer service folks for business and personal banking. Then we have Tom Kincaid as a commercial banker for this area. We also have the best mortgage banker in the area. That's Lisa Culvard, who many people have worked with at other banks. She's been in the market for over 20 years doing mortgages. And then yours truly, Doug Hendricks. And we have a great time working together. There's no competition between our employees for accounts or whatever. And because of that, then we don't have a lot of the issues that some banks have with people doing things they probably shouldn't do just to make a sale.
Blue Harbor Bank, with locations in Statesville, Mooresville, and Huntersville. Member FDIC.
All right, we're back on Racing Roots with Hamm right here on 550 AM and 92.9 FM. Also on WAMEradio.com and the TuneIn app. You can look up WAME Radio on there as well. And if you want to see us here live in the Randy Marion studio, you can go on DHammiam. That's DHammiam with 2 M's, IAM, on the YouTubes. And you can join in there and give us questions, comments, whatever you want. And Jamie Freeze was tuned in. He sent us the text. Do you remember Jamie Freeze?
I do.
Many years ago.
Yep. He was at Penske with us.
Yes, he was. Yes. And he was there when he was a youngin'.
Oh, yeah.
Just still in high school, I guess.
I saw him. It's probably been 3 or 4 years ago since I saw him, but I've seen him since we all left Penske.
Yeah. I actually see him a lot down here.
Yeah, he lives over in Troutman, right?
Yeah, he does. I'll see him down here at the Red Buffalo
Jamie.
And in different places. So yeah. Yeah, he said, yes, this is Jamie Freeze. I said, listen in just to make sure he was listening because he sent me that about 20 minutes ago. So, yes, thanks for tuning in. Hey, and if anybody wants to give us a call, if Jamie wants to give us a call, give us a call, 704-873-9929, and we will open up the phone lines. You can ask Billy anything you want to ask, and he is sworn to answer. He put his hand on the Bible when he come in here that he has to answer every question. So anyway, that's 704-873-9929, and we'll put you on the air.
Jamie said something one time. We were at the shop working late one night, and he was working on he was racing some kind of type of little car, and he's magnafluxing, or I said, "Are you gonna magnaflux and do all this stuff?" He said, "Why would I do that? I only ain't got one of them anyway. If it's cracked or broke, I ain't gonna change it."
Oh yeah,
yeah. I never will forget that. I remember that. He said, "I only got one, so it don't matter."
Said, why worry about the engine crack going into turn one if you don't know about it?
That's right. Yeah,
run what you brung.
That's
right there.
That's right.
That's the thing too. Back in the day, now, and I don't know if y'all still do this, but. And I've been wanting to ask this question. I know that we used to tear down the car, and everything had to be sandblasted, and then you had to magnaflux, like the control arms, pretty much everything. I mean, except for the car itself. But do y'all still have to do all that?
Yeah, they do. They do spindles and uppers, lowers. So much of the stuff used to run once or twice anymore anyway. But spindles, the heavy stuff, yes.
Okay.
Yep, they still do. I don't know that it's a requirement. Back in the day, I remember used to have a magnaflux paper back when I first started, but not anymore. I think they just give everybody pretty much going to do what they have to do to make sure it's safe.
Yeah. Well, and things are not quite as much work now, I guess, because you don't have to have the backup cars and the backup engines in the backup cars and whatever.
Yeah,
a lot of that stuff.
There's not as much weekly prep right now with no practice, no qualifying, and no backup cars. Yeah. Now, when we go to practice, like we're going to do it next week at the COTA down in Texas, or Charlotte coming up week after that, we're preparing backup cars, but no motors in them. So it puts a little pressure on you to track if you have to go to a backup car.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the race this past weekend. They had Dale Earnhardt actually. He broke a cam, which I remember that happening back in the day. And they switched the cam out, put the engine back in the car, and then he went back out and raced. But you won't ever hear about that again in NASCAR.
They pretty well eliminated that.
Yeah.
But back in the day, those points were critical.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 6 points could be the difference.
He won the championship.
Yep.
That year.
What was that? What year was
1990.
90. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Were you going to ask a question, Phil?
No.
So I sent Brad. You remember Brad Parrott?
Oh yeah.
And Buddy, and I sent him. He lives here in Statesville.
Yep.
So I sent him a text. I sent him some screenshots from that race because that was the race that they ended up winning. I don't know. Derek Cove won. Yes.
Yeah.
He won the Daytona 500 that year, and then he won that race.
89.
And that was his only 2 wins. And so, but you could see them in the winner's circle, and Buddy's there, and he's happy and whatever, and you can see Brad back there laughing and trying on hats and stuff. So that was pretty cool. I sent him those.
That was. I tell you what, Derek Cope only won a couple, but he really won that race.
Yeah.
That was pretty. He ran great.
Yeah, and they come in the pits 7th and left 2nd, which was good. Buddy Parrott changing the front tires, and Brad changing the right rears. Because as I mentioned, they had a left side guy.
Yep. Buddy was a heck of a tire changer in his day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then they came back and went. What was Dover? They won, right?
Yep.
You don't win Dover on a fluke.
No.
Right.
No. The monster.
Yeah, the monster mile. 500 miles of it too.
Yes.
500 laps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You were with Kyle when he won there in '95, right?
I was working on the team. I was in the machine shop then, so I was doing the machine work.
That was far more important, really. Probably.
Well, it was, and I would be over there. I'd be boring lifters out or reaming lifters, and I'd forget to change the speed on it while I was filling out my application to go to the racetrack. And I remember doing that. And Doug Hess, who I worked in there with, he was like. He was like, he didn't want me going to the racetrack. But he wanted me to be in the machine shop.
What is he doing now, Doug Hess?
The last I heard, he moved back to Jackson, Michigan.
Gotcha.
And something about Indy cars, but I have not seen him since. But I ended up at Roush Yates working with another Doug Hess, coincidentally, who was my boss down there. It was kind of funny how that worked out. Different Doug Hess.
I didn't know that.
And then I met a Ben Hess. You remember Ben Hess racing?
I know Ben Hess.
So he works here in town with our fire department.
Really?
Yeah, and actually I meant to get him in on the show because he sat right here one morning. We were interviewing him with the fire department, Shane McDonald and him. Yeah, so anyway. I mean, it's just like, I said earlier.
I remember
full circle.
He drove a Yates engine once.
Yeah.
Yeah, at Indy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember him talking about that. But so it's small world, and NASCAR things come back around a lot of times.
Yes.
I see the beer man's joined us.
Did he? I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. The Coors Light beer man, that is, not the Miller Lite beer man. I know there was probably one of those as well.
I haven't got any refreshers.
Oh, I thought I saw him. My bad. He's not.
I haven't seen him yet.
Well, never mind. He's not on there. I thought that was him. So, did you remember Scott Trevison, the beer man from the Coors team? He was with Coors from 92, 93 to all the way into the 2000s whenever Sterling was.
Yeah, he was the guy that came in like on a Thursday, and he would put Coors Light signs all over everything and hand out the Coors Light. I know you were on the Miller deal, but the Coors Light deal was pretty good.
I might even know him if I saw him, but
you would probably.
Yeah, we were kind of
like
proud.
Tom Arnold.
Yeah, he does look like Tom Arnold.
Yeah.
We'd roll into town, and there's Coors Light banners everywhere. We're like, man,
Everywhere.
how do you put that thing up here? Yeah. And that was his doing.
They don't do that anymore.
No.
Oh, really?
They don't even throw the big parties, you know. Remember the parties at Pocono that Miller used to throw?
Nothing. I went to Talladega 2 weeks ago, and you wouldn't even, other than the crowd at the short track across the street, the dirt track, you wouldn't have known there was anybody around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing. There was no signs, no banners, nothing.
Man. So who would you say was the driver at whenever you were at Talladega that took the lead and then the crowd would erupt the most? Just back in the day.
Back in the day?
Yeah.
Well, if he could get there, Richard Petty.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure he did too.
Dale Earnhardt for sure.
Yeah, definitely Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah.
That was the
You
one.
didn't even know
Bill
it.
Elliott got a bit of a
Bill
rousing
Elliott.
too because he wasn't that far away, you know.
Bill Elliott could get them on their feet as
But
well.
the one
when he'd do something.
one that I would hear the loudest ever was Dale Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, I swore that when NASCAR was slowly losing a little bit of its fan viewership at the track, I said, well, the barometer will be Talladega with Dale Jr. in his final year. And
well, and that goes to my point is I'm thinking, you know, did racing kind of fizzle out in Talladega? Surely not just because Dale Jr. retired, but, you know, the passing of Dale Earnhardt, that didn't help things at all. That's the number one thing I hear from people saying they don't watch it anymore since Dale Earnhardt passed away. Yeah. And then when Jr. retired, that was, you know.
Yeah, I don't.
Steve Knight had a comment. Is that what you're gonna say?
He said Doug Hess owns Hess Performance Machine in Jonesville, Michigan.
Okay.
So he's giving you an update on him.
That was Hess Performance Machine was actually what Sabco's machine shop was supposed to be separate from Sabco. And when I started there, I started at Hess Performance Machine. And he made sure to tell me that this is separate from that. But I just could not help myself. I'd walk over into that shop. And then eventually that same point about the time I started, then it was all one. So it didn't matter. And then I ended up going to the racetrack. You know, Mike Ford ended up leaving Sabco after we moved up to Mooresville. Mm-hmm. And then there was my opening right there to become the Jack Man.
Yeah. Was Terry and Jerry Wendell involved in that?
Yes.
Yes.
They were. And let's see, Terry did the gears, transmissions, plumbing, I guess.
Yep.
And then Jerry was engine builder, and I'm sure he did a lot more than that. But they had, before, you know, back in the day when you had more than one job as a team member.
Yeah. Yeah, I think racing blew up, and you had a guy that put the pop rivet in, you had a guy that pulled the pop rivet gun, and then you had a guy that put the gun away. Pretty soon, we 600 people doing this deal, and, you know, getting ready to see the opposite of that coming soon.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What's going to happen next year? Is the employees? I mean, are these shops going to lose employees? I mean,
I think so. I think that's going to be a byproduct of the new vehicle that's coming for Cup. I think they're, you know, you see it in Xfinity with the roster, limited number of people. Cup went to that. They're down numbers of people from traveling and at the track, and I think you're going to see it across the board in the shops. You know, they're not going to be fabricating parts and pieces, building rear end housings anymore. There's going to be a lot of things. So I don't know what the teams are going to do to supplement or take the place of that as far as people are concerned. Some teams are doing things to help.
Yeah, they're doing government contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah, and speaking of that, so if you're just tuning in on the radio or on YouTube, we're talking to Billy Wilburn, who's been in NASCAR. I guess you're 36-year veteran in NASCAR. Is it 36 or 37 now? thereabouts.
It's one or the other.
Give or take one. I mean, you know how time flies with,
right.
Like you said.
That 37th year goes back to 84, and you were barely getting paid, but it still counts.
Yeah. I was there.
Yeah.
So I had a couple questions, but one is, you know, with talking about how teams are finding other things to do. Okay, so Doug Yates with his machine shop there, basically they do. I've heard they just added even more machines, like millions and millions of dollars of machines, because they've gotten a contract. Well, they do government stuff too, but you know, he's kind of set himself up for if stuff starts going away in NASCAR, you know, like, and they also are building some of the parts for the new generation car.
Yep. Well, I know there were several people in our sport that had put in bids to produce product for the new car. Some got to nod, some didn't. But it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens to some of the teams, especially some of the big teams that have, you know, 500-600 people involved in their program, like Hendrick or, you know.
Sure.
I'm not sure how many people Gibbs has, but all the big teams, Stewart-Haas, there's going to be some impact when it comes to the number of employees. And that's the part I hate most about it.
I noticed that they took sort of like they're using a bunch of different teams that have that capability of making parts. You know, like Roush Yates might have gotten the contract for doing the wheel hubs.
Yep.
And maybe one other thing. And then another team got the contract. Even though Roush Yates could do this other thing, they're giving it to someone else. So it's almost like NASCAR sort of spread it out a little bit.
Yeah. I was going to say, you know, when you said the wheel hubs, it made me think back. We were talking about the single lug nut. That was the one reason that I really wanted to hopefully or try get a chance to go to Indy and change tires one time. I was wanting to see what it was like just with one lug nut.
Boom, boom.
Yeah. But it didn't happen. So,
you know, you're still an opportunity. Possibly.
I think
mean,
I'm
it might
good.
come along, especially now.
I think I'm good.
You're on the radio and you're on YouTube, so somebody's going to come along and say, "Hey, listen, I just one race, I need you to come up and help us out because our guys are sick or."
Yeah, but David, you're younger than
vacation.
us. We just
Oh,
can't
is that
do
it?
that no more. We just can't.
You know,
that's a wonderful idea. But
I found a lot of other things to do on Sundays.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah, I understand.
I'm good.
I'll tell you what, though, I was definitely considering whenever Carl Long come in here and he said he just had some employees leave. And then I said, "Hey, I think I could still do it." You know, he needed a jack man.
And then Tracy looked at you like,
"Yeah,
it's like,
that's it."
Yeah.
No, I think it'd be kind of cool to have a reunion race and have all the old pit crew, all the old drivers come in and just do old school.
What do you mean old? No, I'm
old
just kidding.
school.
Tell that new generation to go sit in the stands and watch.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool to do that.
That's a great idea. Let's make that happen, Billy.
I know one thing. I really enjoy, like you were talking about, watching or listening to the 1990 race. I see an old race on TV, I'll watch it.
Yeah,
it's just and it just reminds me of why I got involved.
Right.
To be quite honest with you. Yeah.
When those stock cars in the 80s ran at the big speedways, they were raw.
Yeah.
They were jumping around and buffeting, and
sure,
you could hear the rumbling. It was a whole different everything.
I think the personality of the sport itself, with, you know, knowing that there's, I mean, today we have to be so precise and so correct, and everybody's by the book and the rules. You knew back then there was a little bit of, you know, everybody's, you know,
leeway for everybody.
It was just that was the intrigue of it to me. It was kind of
because nobody was really way ahead on every aspect. Somebody had a little bit with the maybe the tranny, and somebody else had a little bit of the engine. And somebody had this, you know.
Yeah. I think 1990 was probably my most maybe influential year or whatever. But, you know, that was when I said, I want to get into NASCAR because that was the year the Days of Thunder, for one. And then I was also getting tickets. I was working at a dealership in Charlotte, and I would get tickets to go to the racetracks at Rockingham, Darlington, and Charlotte.
Yep.
At the Busch races, mostly. Every once in a while, I get a Cup ticket. But I would go watch Jeff Gordon and Rob Moroso.
Yep.
And, you know, some of those, and the other drivers, of course. But those, and then the movie Days of Thunder come out, and I'm like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I was dealership technician. So then from then on, that was what I did. I went for it.
Right in your backyard, too,
Yep.
right?
Right in my backyard, yes, absolutely. My uncle drove the limo for Tom Cruise and Days of Thunder. I mean, just everything was like falling together. This is me.
That's it.
And I was, just really excited to watch the races back then.
Well, speaking of back then,
Yeah.
so my one question that I can think of to ask you, Billy, is as far as all the races that you've done, what would you say is your most memorable race and why?
Good question.
I would say the first win with Darrell Waltrip, World 600.
Wow. What year was
1988.
that? Wow.
1988. David and I were still in high school.
Yep. 1988 World 600. Darrell Waltrip was the first time I went to Victory Lane, and it was awesome. Yeah, I'll never forget that.
I was prepping for my daughter to be born that year. And yes, I was still in high school.
You both had stars in your eyes.
That's it.
Yeah.
We graduated in 89.
The other one was with David Gilliland when we won the
Kentucky
nationwide race.
Yeah,
in Kentucky
I was
with
there.
David
That
Gilliland.
was amazing.
Yeah. That was, that was kind of the first time I'd done kind of my own deal.
Okay.
On our own, and
you
put
guys
together,
were a no name though. You didn't even have a sponsor on the car, did you? It was black.
No, just black 84.
Yeah.
We tried to get 84 Lumber to sponsor us.
Oh, that
and we had
cool.
we had reached out to them and had contact and had conversation, but they just didn't want to get involved. And then lo and behold, we went up and won that race. And of course, I didn't change anything with 84 Lumber, but that was with putting a group of guys together on a part-time basis, and then at that point, winning a race, not being a full-time or a Cup affiliated.
It opened doors immediately. And unfortunately, if I remember, David jumped shift and decided to take a Cup deal instead of giving you guys the full tilt, which I personally thought that was terrible because you had 4 or 5 guys on your team that were ringers, man. You were old school guys that could set the car up how you wanted it to. And unless you really knew the logistics behind the scene who was there.
Yeah, David had to do what David had to do for his career and stuff. But I think it worked out. It kind of put the brakes on that program because the owner of that program at the time was 100% for David.
Yeah.
So, when David made that move, it kind of pulled the blocks out from under the rest of it.
David went and made some big bucks there for a little while. I mean,
and you can't blame him for that. I mean, as soon as David, David was today's Cup drivers, 20 years old, 22 years old, coming up through. David was past that point, and he said, "I got to go." And I kind of understood it.
Well, opportunity knocked.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
If he wouldn't have won that race, he wouldn't have had that opportunity, and he had to take it.
That's right.
I mean,
And now he's getting his son ready to.
So somebody said to me one time, we were talking about how the old team would travel together and stuff like that. How about these new drivers? Do you think William Byron has ever ridden in a team van to Talladega and back?
No. That's what I was saying.
I pick on him because, I love the kid, but it's just a driver like that would never have done that.
Yeah, I think, today's world is so fast and so much going on out there and so many things,
Yeah, the availability's there.
Yeah, time's precious, but, that's where the personality of the sport, I think, went away. There's not a lot of that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
They act like
jump on a plane, home in an hour,
The autograph
on to
is a
something
commitment.
else.
Yeah, sure. And you were talking about money and how back in the day, I remember when Earnhardt got his $10 million Budweiser sponsor, and that was like, wow, that's unheard of. That's a lot of money. But now it's more like double that, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think the money got to a point where it was hard for one sponsor to take the whole deal.
Oh, yeah.
That's why, it's nothing for us to have 6 or 7 different paint schemes in a year.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And a big sponsor is somebody that'll cover half the season.
Right.
Even in Xfinity, it's very hard to find that kind of money anymore.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But that's what they're angling toward with the new car and the new programs they're putting together for next year.
And a new car is going to have still have the wraps, I guess. I mean,
I can remember the first couple times we tried a wrap at Penske, and it was it'd bubble up and pull off and fly off and flap around and carry on. Now they roll them out and they look just like they were painted. It's really nice quality stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Smooth.
No callers yet with questions.
Oh, no.
Although they do
Kind of
paint
been-
those Exalta cars. That's real paint on those Exalta cars.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We still paint the Brandt cars because the day glow doesn't work out on a wrap.
Gotcha.
So our cars are still
yeah.
painted when we run the Brandt scheme.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to come up with a rust paint job. Like we were talking about that this morning, me and Billy. Just car looks like it's totally rusted, and then just clear coat it.
I saw a truck the other day at the gas station.
Why not?
And I had to look 2 or 3 times. I'm like, what in the world? It had dents and holes and rust. And it was, and I had to get up really close.
Decal.
And all of a sudden I go, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
It was a
I thought
beautiful
that.
truck, but it looked like it been crashed and turned over 47 times.
Yeah, I got a buddy that does drag racing, and he used to work in NASCAR, and he's got an old Camaro, and it's got that wrap on it with the rust looking, and he pulls out there on the drag strip and just spanks them all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty, yeah.
It's an
Biggins
illusion
Customs, yeah.
to make you think it's a piece of junk.
That's it, yeah.
Well, they said paint weighs, has quite a bit of weight to it versus a wrap.
Yeah,
So
a full paint job was, I want to say it was
4 or
16
5
pounds.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Primer, Bondo, and everything. We figured right around that.
Well, speaking of this kind of goes along with the weight thing and how tire rubber used to get into the wheels and things. And so what's an old trick you used to do to keep the brake dust? Well, for one, to keep the brake dust from spewing all in your face whenever
Tire
you.
chunks.
And then the other thing, tire chunks, I guess. I think it worked for that too.
Pam.
Pam, yeah, we used Pam. We used Pam
Everham, I think, was the first to use Pam underneath the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think one of the coolest things they did was change the air outlet on the gun. Yeah, it blows out the side instead of out the front.
Oh, okay.
Because as soon as you hit the trigger,
dust
and stuff looked like a bomb went off.
Right,
yeah. So that was pretty cool thing. But it, depending on how it was directed, it would blow all that oil and stuff in your eyes and what have you. So you, one way or the other, you kind of could be in trouble.
And the tire dust was really slick too, because I remember the tire, let's see, the left front being thrown off and landed, whatever. And then I come around the front of the car.
Oh, yeah.
Just that one time,
probably like graphite.
Yeah, it is.
Almost, yeah.
Very slick.
It's like he said, it's very slick because it's like a powder.
Yeah, I wouldn't
and it's
think
heavy.
of that.
It's heavier than powder because it's that composite or
Dust.
whatever type of stuff it is from the pad.
Yeah.
And we've talked very little about you as a tire changer.
Well,
why is that?
Not much to talk about.
Yeah, there is.
You were flamboyant in your days, you know.
You and Joey Knuckles.
Yeah. We had some good years. We won pit crew championship a couple times and won a few races, and
Yeah, we were talking about those Unical pit crew challenges at Rockingham. They were always more fun than you could imagine.
Yeah.
Yep.
You never knew who was going to try something slick.
Well,
like when the Budweiser crew passed the jack across the hood.
Yeah, the lug
like
nuts and the coolest one I ever saw was they always check your lug nuts for threads and this and that, and then they caught onto the wheel spacers on the back of the wheels, and so then they come with some special wheels, and they were quite a bit thicker than they were supposed to be, so it was only 2 or 3 turns there, but. I always said all that works good, but you still got to hit that lug nut.
Yeah.
You got to take that quarter or eighth of a second to hit it. Yeah.
Yeah, because they got to be tight, and if they put a torque wrench on them and they turn, there's a penalty. It's like, man.
I can remember it like it was yesterday. Some of the most nervous times ever. Walk down there with Buddy or whoever was going to check the lug nuts, and they'd start clicking. And if that thing turned and didn't click, you're like so let down, and you had a whole year to think about it.
Right.
I know.
Before you got to do it again.
It was like a 4-second penalty.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, you have one loose lug nut, you were done.
Yeah, you were done.
You had to be perfect.
So are there any tricks of the trade that you guys did that you could tell, like to try to pass qualifying, such as the lead helmets and things like that?
Statute of limitations.
It's over.
I learned more about tricks of the trade cleaning out a truck my first job at Petty Enterprises. I found more stuff. The coolest one was a roll of duct tape. Big roll of duct tape. All cut out. The outside looked just like it's supposed to be, and they put a roll of tape around the middle and filled it up with lead shot. I bet that thing weighed 25 pounds.
Yeah.
How about that?
And you'd roll through, and it just laying up on the dash. Coolest thing I've ever seen. I picked that roll of tape up, and I broke my arm. Yeah. And I said, what in the world is this? And so I started messing around with it, and I was, man, that's heavy. There's no way tape weighs that much.
Not
So
duct tape.
And it was full of lead shot.
How about that? That's cool.
It was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
David, what about you?
Similar.
What was the one of the most memorable tricks that you pulled?
Oh, there's been some in the engine side. But before that, I want to talk about the helmet. Who was it that said that it was
filled it with lead or?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Bowling
I don't remember who it was. I can remember him seeing him in here.
I'd heard about helmets that were heavy.
But Tracy, I figured the big
best
trick he ever pulled was to get you to marry him. You know?
Oh yeah, that was tough. That was the toughest thing. That's the hardest job I've ever had.
Yeah, but it's paid off.
Still a hard job.
Yeah,
it didn't pay off. No, I'm kidding.
Sure it has.
So yeah, sure it has. All right, so.
So tell us your
Let's
story.
see. The statute of limitations is over because it's been over 20 years ago. No, I can't say that. Some of it I'd like to, but one of these days, because some of them we knew some common people, so I won't go to that. I'll
just a little
just
air out of the
one.
balloon.
All right. Okay. So one of them was. All right. So you remember the restrictor plate? That was always the one to try to, try to change things. And so now I'm trying to remember the carburetor. We had the throttle plates open and whatever. So we made them to where they open like this. And I was basically brought throttle plates and said, take these, take the transfer channel around this side and do this and this and this. So, I had to order the tools I needed. And then we took these carburetors to Daytona. And it was like, I think it was 5 or 7 horsepower better. Which is significant in a plate track.
Yeah.
On a plate.
2 or 3
engine.
significant.
Yes. But they didn't last very long before NASCAR caught onto it, and they took like 5 of the carburetors. They're like, nope, you're out of there. And then the other one was the little plastic. We had the plastic. It's about this thick, maybe 1.5 inch, 2 inch, and it had the 4 holes in it, and it had in the intake. It was perfectly where it could suck up to the bottom of the carburetor, and it would suck up there. I wasn't involved in that, but it was on my team, and I remember that we got fined $50,000 for that modification.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the point of that modification was to do what?
And there's other things, but I don't want to get into that. For whatever reason, when that sucked up to the bottom of the carburetor, and then it was like you had the 4 holes, and then it was just help with reversion or something, and atomization of the fuel and fuel mixture and all, which helped it burn more efficiently. So yeah.
Did you notice that Tracy became the prosecuting attorney?
I know. I was getting the heat on me.
I was just curious as to what the reasoning behind it was. Because not everybody knows.
Yeah, it got hot in here all
Not
of a sudden. No, maybe I should do just a show on that. We could talk about some stuff.
You can't handle the truth.
but yeah. But there was some other things that were like, and some of the stuff I was like, I don't know if I really want to be involved in this.
I think it just intrigues me, yeah.
But it was interesting stuff because I remember watching our driver on the track at Daytona.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
All I'm going to say is those inserts.
But it wasn't. Yeah.
They actually made them weld them.
Yeah. Right. Eventually you had to weld them in.
But they still moved.
But they still moved. There you go. But the welds looked like they were welded. Something like that.
Some pretty interesting stuff. That's all I'm going to say.
And what about sterno? You ever use any sterno?
No.
Okay, you didn't
heard
do
about
that.
it, but I've never used any of it.
I did as a scout.
Needle nose pliers.
I know some fuel cell tricks, but we'll leave that alone.
Yeah.
You're still in it.
He's not quite there yet to where he can dischiscose his secrets.
So we'd like to thank Jersey Cape Yachts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we have to do the wheel.
They said there's a particular fuel tank size. You have fuel cell size, but they didn't say anything about the size of the fuel line. Yeah. Right. Anyway.
I don't know. That's a technical thing. I was talking about Jersey Cape Yachts.
That's right.
They can be reached at 609-965-8650. Located in Leeward Bank, New Jersey. Just give Wayne and Janine a call there.
That's right. And they'll hook you right up. They can bring it down here and put it on Lake Norman even.
Yeah,
why not?
We need to be on location. On location on the yacht broadcasting one time.
We absolutely do need to do that, yes. And I'll ramp it up. We'll be on the radio. We'll be on YouTube. We'll go ahead and do Facebook and all of that.
Caribbean. If there's a Jersey Cape yacht down in the Caribbean, Janine will let us know, and we'll You know, you just
Yes.
order the tickets and I'll be ready to go.
I would even settle for the Daytona area. We can go cruising around with Scott.
There you go.
I mean, if I had to settle, I mean, why not?
I just want to go fishing.
Okay, well, that works too. Let's go fishing.
Yeah, we all want to fish.
All right, Dave.
Yes.
Spin that wheel.
All right, let's spin the wheel and see. Pick our winner.
I did see a fish on the way here.
Oh,
I
you
was
did?
crossing the Catawba River. It was just laying there in the middle of the road.
Catawba. My dad says Catawba.
That's why I said it like that. His
Right,
dad.
yes. Yep. All right, so we're on red. And we got, who's the winner there? Tracy, you can say it. You got it.
It looks like Heather and Jeremy 388 is the winner.
All right, y'all are the winners. So you go on to my website, DHammiam.com, and send me your email address. Simple as that. And your mailing address. Yep. That's it. That's all you got to do, and I'll send you the prize. I don't know what the prize is going to be yet, but I'll figure something out. I've gotten a little behind. I think I've about hired Tracy to take care of this stuff for me. You need a part-time job?
No, I got plenty of jobs.
You don't have any kids, do you, Billy?
He just wants to fish.
Yeah.
No.
All right. We can make that a job. Well, not a job, but we can make some money fishing if you want.
Love to fish. Deep sea fishing's my thing.
Oh.
Between playing poker and deep sea fishing, I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
No.
Yeah. To get some ginger, right? Ginger.
Yeah,
you know, the
ginger
spice or whatever it is.
I preferred Marianne, really. She
Oh,
was
yeah,
a
well.
scooter.
Not much on redheads.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
3
Well, there you go.
hour cruise.
So if people want to, all right, first of all, if you want to ask Billy a question and we're off the air, you're watching this tomorrow or tonight or whenever, a year from now, if you want to ask him a question, go ahead and comment on this video and I will make sure that he gets the question and he can answer it. Or if you want to just tell him that his hair looked nice tonight, do it. Go on there and tell him. And while you're at it, hit the thumbs up because we need to let YouTube know that we enjoyed this video. So, I mean, you know, if you want to. If you don't like it, hit it twice. So, you know.
Hit the button.
That's right.
But I was going to ask if people wanted to reach you, or do you want people to reach you?
Well, I don't have Facebook. I don't have anything.
Okay.
I'm pretty much don't have a digital footprint anywhere.
Okay. Cell phone number?
That's about it.
Just kidding. All
Cell
right.
phone and email. That's about it.
That'll keep you young.
Yes.
Keep you out of trouble.
Yeah.
Probably so.
I know that certain NASCAR teams are implementing restrictions on social media and they're tightening down on watching it.
Yeah.
Heavy duty.
I'm safe. I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I know. I
Just
posted
got a fishing pole in the water.
Yeah. I posted a video one time, well, a couple times, and I'm trying to think the statute of limitations. Yeah, one of them is I put it. It was on of the car that the Robert Yates car, tribute car that Stenhouse drove, Kansas, I believe, whatever. They gave it to Doug Yates. So then I did a video of Doug starting it up, you know, happy as could be, and then I posted it, I guess, on Facebook. And then they were like, "Hey, can you take that off because it's showing off our secrets, our secrets." But it's like, okay, really? But I still got it.
I'll tell you what, it's amazing what people see and look for because I've seen pictures of people that come through a tour in our shop and they'll be posted somewhere and somebody says, "Hey, you got to put that up. You can't have that stuff on your table or this or that or whatever." And it's just a spring, I'm like, "Oh, okay." But sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. I went through that because I worked right in the window there at Roush Yates, and they would always tell people, don't take pictures or whatever. But there's people standing there and they're looking in the window, so I'd always try to make sure maybe our, rocker arms was one of the things that maybe not seen, or oil pan, that kind of stuff.
And you look over and you see me going,
yeah.
Which his telephonic lens.
The zoom lens and all that kind of stuff.
Got it.
Which, speaking of oil pans, that's one of the things Penske come up with years ago was the segmented oil pan that eventually caught on to the other teams. Because I remember the very first time that I heard about it, and I was like, well, hey, we need to try that. And we made an aluminum oil pan, and it was a trick.
When they tore that motor down at Sears Point that time, after we won the pole, that was a tough one there. A lot of stuff got away there.
Oh, because it was in front of everybody.
Yes.
And they lay it out on the table for people to see. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Because that was like, I believe it was right off 10 horsepower better.
I remember that.
I think it was at least 10.
Especially in Daytona, they'd have 2 or 3 tables with just parts all over the place out there.
Sure.
Boy, when they did that, that was a big one.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a heartbreaker too, because you're like, man, all this work we put in.
As a matter of fact, I shot a cover for Winston Cup scene that at Rusty's shop in the early 90s. and somebody was routing out the inside of the rear end housing, taking metal out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And somebody else on another team saw that and thanked me for it.
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
There you go.
You'll be banned. Yeah. You'll never come in again.
Right. Yes. Well, we should do another show. Maybe one of these days, if you ever retire from NASCAR, maybe 10 years down the road, whatever, and we can do a show about some of these things.
We could talk more.
Yeah. We'll keep in touch.
Yeah.
We'll get it figured out.
No time.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up now. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up and all that good stuff. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe, because next week, who did I say we're going to have? Oh, Tim Pac-Man. Pac-Man. Whatever. So he's got his own podcasting show and all that stuff. Well, you were on there.
I did. Okay. Was on Tim's show probably a couple months ago.
Okay.
Yep.
So he had mentioned to me about coming on, and so and then I was like, the day wasn't working out right for me in that time. So I said, hey, why don't you come up here and then we'll work it out too on that.
Perfect.
So yeah, it should be interesting.
Yep.
And then I've got a couple more. I got Spencer Boyd's going to come on here in a couple weeks. Truck Series driver, right? And who else did I say, Phil? Anyway,
I don't know the listing yet.
Yeah, we'll keep it. We'll keep this stuff going every week. Make sure we have somebody, even if it's just me sitting here talking, looking at the camera.
Looking so pretty.
I'm just kidding. I won't do that to you. All right. So thanks everybody for tuning in on 550 and 92.9, and tune in tomorrow morning for the Billy Buck Morning Show with a side of ham. I'll be sitting right here as I do most mornings, and it'll be from 6 to 10 in the morning. So we'll see y'all in the morning. Good
Remember,
night.
DHammiam.
That's right.
Her little
so
voice
as I
sounds
get
so much nicer than ours.
All right. Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm.
If you don't know our host, David Hamm, he's a 25-year NASCAR veteran, engine builder, and jackman.
Live every Monday evening, we have a new guest
from the racing world with their stories, their paths,
their
racing roots.
Sponsored by Jersey Cape Yachts.
Real Country 550 and 92.9 WAME Statesville.
Hey, we've got Ryan Scott here at Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville. Tell us what's going on now.
What is going on at Randy Marion Chevrolet? How about deals?